Welcome to the Get It Done podcast, where you'll find me, Bradley Simmons, weight loss and fitness expert, chatting to other experts on why health is the key to success. If you haven't heard of our 5 pillars that get it done, they are mental, physical, emotional, social, and financial health. This podcast is going to help you build your 5 pillars, and therefore it's going to build your success and, most importantly, your happiness. Let's get it done. Yes, George, welcome to the Get It Done podcast, mate. It's a pleasure to have you on board. We've known each other for years. I guess we were probably the first in the industry, smashing those PT sessions, doing 10 sessions a day, working our nuts off. And yourself, myself, we've just gone from strength to strength, mate. So it's been brilliant to do the journey with you, mate. So quickly, just describe yourself, where you're from, and what your philosophy is, mate.
So as Brad said, my name's George Veness. I started as a boxer when I was about 6 years old. Went on that route, sort of won a few titles and you know, got to that early 20s. I feel like that late teens, early 20s is when you know whether you're going to crack it in the professional world, even as football would be the same, right?
Of course.
I got to that and I thought, do I think I'm going to be a world champion? And do I want to go through that? I don't know. And then I just thought if I could I started getting into the coaching side of it and helping the fighters down the club. And then that was where I got into the coaching side of it. So I naturally went from like my, training myself, training to fight, and then training fighters. And I sort of like, in boxing, you've got, I don't know what football's like, but in boxing, you've got loads of different styles of fighting.
Of course.
And coaches will normally take towards a certain style. And I sort of weren't enjoying the way I was fighting at the time. And I got obsessed with different styles of fighting. How the Cubans train, how the Russians train, how the Americans train. And then that naturally made me start to look at boxing from a coach's perspective. That was in a club called Newham in Stratford. So I grew up in Canning Town. I used to train at the Peacock. So I used to do my S&C at the Peacock, and then I used to train down the boxing club. And I would train from like 12 years old. I'd be getting up before school and going for a run and, you know, going at it. Yeah. And then I sort of just went into coaching and thought, right, okay, I went in boxing. So Frank Bruno, they started a college called Frank Bruno's Boxing Academy. And it was basically for boxers that sort of weren't doing great at school, that could go in there, do boxing training and get a PT qualification.
Amazing.
And I've done that at the same time.
It
was mental. Class, I've done that at the same time.
Is that still going on now? Because that'd be brilliant.
I don't know. I haven't looked at it. It might not be, but it was basically, there was a lot of us. There was a lot of fighters in there.
Something you would do a jab one day if it gets to a certain point.
I think so. I mean, I wanted to set up some sort of charity on the side of it that give back to amateur boxing clubs. Because they're not that well funded. No. So so that was sort of the route I went down, and then it was about training the fighters, and then one day I ended up getting introduced to Bodysism, and that was sort of like I went over to Notting Hill.
Those that don't, Notting Hill, Westbourne Grove.
Yeah,
a very nice area.
Very
lots of money.
Yeah, lots of money. It was
clientele.
The first time in Notting Hill. It was like, fuck, this is sick over here.
Yeah, and it motivates you to be in those areas, you know?
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Not Westbourne Grove is like one of the best roads in London, isn't it?
And Bodysism at the time was a place where all the Victoria's Secret models
was thriving,
train.
wasn't it? Yeah.
And you was in there and you was training there, and that's where your name got out there.
Yeah, I had a knack for it. Like, I felt like I had a knack for creating a vibe. Yeah. And I thought I was good at that. I used to stick my house music on. Yeah. It was great on the pads, and it was high energy because that was how we was taught. Yeah. And it ended up just getting really busy. I remember when I was doing that, I think when I first see you had about 20K on Instagram.
Yeah, 20. Yeah. And then that was big. That was equivalent to like
big.
200,000.
Yeah, it was big. And it was just sort of, I didn't feel like I was great at the social media route, so I just instinctively went the physical route. Yeah. And I looked at the business where I was at, and I sort of see flaws in that business model, and I wanted to create something for myself. Yeah. And I thought, fuck it, I'm gonna.
Yeah, because how long were you at Bodysism? So obviously, when you're at Bodysism, you're learning how they do things. You're obviously experienced what could be improved.
I was a good boxing coach. Like, in terms of, I was great on the pads. I knew how to make people feel good. I could teach people the basics really quick and be
Yeah.
efficient with it. And I knew how to, you know, I basically was good at making people feel good.
Yeah. Which is the most important thing as a personal trainer. You could
I
have
think so.
you could have all the qualifications in the world, right? You could speak with the best intellectual language, but if you ain't got the social skills, if you haven't got the likability, you're not going to be successful in our industry.
100%. I think that comes first.
Yes.
The rest you can learn,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I all the other trainers there was clearly more knowledgeable. So the way what I thought was, if I could learn their knowledge and add that strength conditioning element to the boxing, I can. It's all about, like, as a PT, it's how good can you make that hour for your customer, right? Because they've only got so many hours a week that they can fit into this.
Because your customer's not coming just to change their body composition. They want you to change their mood. They want you to uplift them, boost their confidence, their self-esteem. So if you're a PT and you're boring in an hour, but you're making them do squats, lunges, they're eventually going to leave you.
Yeah.
Because you're not giving them that dopamine that they need.
Yeah, or they just won't train, right?
Yeah.
I always think, like, for the general person, if you can improve their fitness levels, get them to look a little bit better,
Of course.
and go through sort of the main compound lifts well, you've done a decent job.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be a world-class athlete, but if you can do that and they can enjoy that time and it switches their mind off from their job or whatever else is going on in their life, that's the game, isn't it,
That's
really?
100%.
You know?
And I see that when, obviously, I go to Jab a lot. So for those that don't know, George, you own a great company, a great fitness studio, I guess, currently in Mayfair, but you're now moving to Victoria, which obviously we'll come on to. And your sessions are class, mate. High energy. You burn about 1,000 calories in 45 minutes, mate. And you improve your fitness massively. But also the type of people who go there, that you link with. As soon as I go into that male change room, mate, I'm talking to people, I'm getting numbers, you know. So it's a great social as well.
Yeah.
It's a great place to network. And I feel like what you've created is incredible, something I'm inspired by, mate. So talk to me. You were working at Bodysism. Similar to myself when I was working at Virgin Active, I thought, I can do this by myself now. I need to do my own thing. When did you decide, Joe, what, it's time for me to find the investors and start producing or bringing Jab to life?
So I wanted to do it as an extension onto Bodyism, believe it or not. And it just didn't end up coming to life. I also am not great at, I also sort of was impatient. Like I wanted that goal and I was going for it. I was at Bodysism about 18 months and that's sort of the only place I've ever worked at where I've had a job.
Yeah.
And then, it was decent. I just felt like at the time I was bringing in a lot. I was probably one of their busiest, I was definitely the busiest trainer, one of their busiest trainers.
Mate, you can be confident. You was
I know I was, but I don't want to insult other people. And I thought, fuck, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
I was training a fair few celebrities. Yeah. And the biggest mistake I made, and this is good for other PTs, I was training a lot of celebrities and social media was hot, wasn't it? I remember, like, I trained one client who I still train now called Lorena Ray, and she's a VS model, and I remember as soon as I trained her and put up a video, you would get an influx of followers. Whereas now it don't happen as much, right?
No,
that was how hot it was.
It was hot back then.
Yeah. And I started to prioritise the celebrity over the bread and butter customer.
Okay.
In my head, naturally.
Yeah. Was that because you were younger and you was chasing the 20,000 followers? I
think so.
You wanted to be an influencer.
Yeah, and
which people can get sucked into.
I could see that if you attached yourself to celebrity names, you naturally are elevated in the industry.
Yeah, of course, it happened to me. Brand deals.
That is marketing, course, right? You know, even if you look, like I listened to the story on Rolex the other day, and he was one of the first people to put his product on a celebrity. Yeah. So what he done was there was a girl that was swimming the channel, something along them lines, and he put a Rolex on her to show that it was waterproof. And then that was on the front of the papers. He was one of the first to start doing that. That's fucking clever, you know? Yeah. But it's the same today, and we have social media to promote it, right? Mm-hmm. So I went on that. The only difference is that what I think is your bread and butter customers are the ones that need to be looked after, because celebrities go on what's hot and they come and go, right? Yeah. Whereas your bread and butter customer will be with you for life if you look after them. And I think it's a great lesson to don't get carried away with the hype. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, you know, like keep your feet on the ground, keep training these people. You want to be attached to them, but don't think that because you train them once that you're going to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know, it
100%.
just takes, it's a constant trickle in, isn't it? And then your bread and butter customers, and I suppose it's the same online, your bread and butter customers are the ones that always have to be looked after, you know?
Of course, 100%. And like Instagram's changed massively compared to when we started when we was younger. Like today, to go viral, you have to do something stupid, or you have to be very controversial, or you have to create that motivational reel where you're up in the mountains, for example. Where back in the day, you training celebrities, I was training celebrities, and you just naturally just grew 5,000, 6,000 followers a day. It was mental, wasn't it? And the amount of business. So it's definitely adapted. What would your be advice to a youngster, a young PT now starting in the game? What would your advice be? Would it be go down wanting to grow followers, or would it be going down build a solid clientele to then eventually?
I think
build
it depends what you want, right? You know, I've got a girl that comes in Jab who's a client, hasn't been a PT for that long, but come into the world, is super fit, super passionate about training, come into the world and went straight online.
Yep.
She knew exactly what she wanted to do.
Okay.
She didn't want to deal with the sessions in a gym. She wanted to go online. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
For me, I would do what I've done. I'd go and get a job in a high-end gym. I'd absorb as much knowledge as you can, and I'd build a great network.
Yep.
And I'd really look after them customers, and then find what way you want to go. Do you want to go online? Do you want to go physical? Or do you want to stay doing that? You know, but I think that your success will come from who you're around. So you need to find the best people in the industry to get around them.
Yeah, environment's key.
100%. It's same as sport, isn't it?
Of course.
If you take an average fighter and you stick them on the GB squad where there's a load of national champions and Olympic gold medalists around them, they will just naturally get better. They might not be at that level, but they will naturally get better.
100%, mate. And I surround myself with yourself. Dan Lawrence is a good friend of mine. He's actually living in my apartment right now, sponging all the time.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself in those situations. You learn from other people. And for me, mate, I grew up in Ealing, West London. I was training clients in Chiswick, but I knew for me to be successful, I had to get myself closer and closer to central London. But it's a risk worth taking, right?
Yeah.
And as a young PT now, if you want to be the top of the game, you have to get yourself in central London.
You have to be.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Even like for me, so I grew up in East London. When I left school, so when I was 17, 18, my family moved out to Essex.
Yeah.
So I used to travel 2 hours to go to Bodysism there and 2 hours back every day.
Mate. People don't hit,
Graft. Do you know what I mean?
Exhausting.
But as soon as I got there, I was like, this is my opportunity.
Yeah.
I've got to take this, you know?
Yeah.
And that was it. It was just a different world.
Where you living now?
Queen's Park.
Exactly, there you go.
Yeah, it's a different world. You don't go back, right? But I also think that's another thing in terms of coming out your comfort zone. When you stay in that place where you grew up, you stay around the same mindsets, and it can hold you from breaking out and doing more than what you once thought, right? And I think a good thing to do as a youngster is get out of where you come from, go to that place where it's hot, and leverage yourself, you know.
And take serious risks when you're younger, when you can afford to.
100%. You can always go back and live with your mum and dad,
Exactly. And in those 2 hours when you're travelling, upskill your knowledge, listen to podcasts, read books. Do you know what I mean? That's the time when you can upskill yourself as well.
Definitely.
Do you know what I
Definitely.
mean? Okay, cool. So, mate, talk to me. Jab, we're in Mayfair for how many years?
4 years.
And why Mayfair?
4.5 years.
Why did you choose Mayfair as your first spot?
Just had a client base there.
You just had a client base
Yeah,
there?
there weren't much thought behind it.
Yeah. But it was a great road, mate.
Great location.
Great location.
Had a good client base there. You know, that was it. It sort of, you know.
And during that COVID lockdown period, obviously, you just opened your business and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that stress. Like many businesses would be listening to said, yeah, it happened to me.
Fuck me, man.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I think when you look back on that, you think, what the fuck was we going through then?
Yeah.
That is mental.
Yeah, it's mental.
To be honest with you, I was like, I hustled to fuck and built a great PT business throughout that time, and sort of found the opportunity there and went with that. But I think if I was to look at that and take the qualities from it, I learned more about business over that 4 years than I probably could have done in 20, you know, because I was chucked in the deep end, and it was like cash flow, survival, recession, people ain't got money.
Becoming a dad.
So I had my firstborn and the gym opened within 4 weeks of each other. So I was like if you look at me now and you look at a photo when I was 27, I look like I've aged about 20 years. But you sort of like, and I think it depends on what situation. But when you become a parent, you puts a lot of pressure on you because you're up all night.
Yeah.
You know, you got the financial side of it. You're living in London. You know, one of you is not going to be working.
Yeah.
So I had it all in one go, and then I had COVID as well. So I was sort of like, I've just grown. So I just feel like since I've opened that gym, I'm like a different person.
Yeah.
You learn patience. You learn how to take risk. You learn how to find opportunities when they're not staring you in the face.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I guess you learned about profit margins as well, all that type of
Well,
things.
yeah, you got to learn about P&L finances. Yeah. And another thing as well is like if someone's opening a gym or opening a business, a great operator will look at your finances and plan for the worst. Don't plan for the best. Don't plan at being 80. Don't plan and think you're going to open your business and be at 80 and 90% capacity because it just don't happen. Yeah. You know, plan to be at 30%, 40%. Because if once you hit them numbers, and hopefully you do if you stick to a strategy, then amazing, you'll make great profit. But if you're under pressure all the time, you can't build the best culture.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with hospitality that is different to online is you're client facing constantly. So if you're under pressure daily, people feel it. I'll go in a gym now and I can feel what they're going through just because I've been through it myself.
Yeah.
And I can sit there and watch them and that's the difference. I had a meeting with Vishal, who owns Until, and I can just tell he's a great operator. He knows what he's doing, and he's someone who's sitting on the back end of the business, right? And they're two different things. When you're in hospitality, you've got your front end, you've got your back end. The people on the front end are client-facing. They always have to be there and ready to put on a great customer experience and make clients feel welcome.
Yeah, energy all the time.
Energy all the time. That energy and the back-end operational energy is two completely different things. And you've got to understand that. Do you know what I mean? And your back end and your finances and your economics and your cash flow has to be ready and prepared and strategized for you to be able to have steady growth and to be able to reach the goal that you want to reach. I didn't understand none of that when I opened the business, you know.
Exactly.
I sort of just learned that on the job, but I was great with customers.
When you first went into the job, what were you thinking? Okay, cool, I need to find investment, I need to find money, I need to find a spot.
Yeah.
This is the type of gym I want to open. It's going to be all roses, right?
Well, I literally didn't think I just thought, yeah, I'm going to blow up.
Yeah.
I know I am. You know, literally, it was that arrogant.
You have to have that arrogance for you to take that risk in the first place. You got to be confident in yourself, mate.
100%.
Of course you do.
And I just thought, someone said to me, create a great product, look after customers, and you'll always be all right.
Yeah.
And I got sent a Warren Buffett video.
Yeah.
And he talks you through stories. So what Warren Buffett's great at is finding a business that is solid and that, you know, he's going to do obviously great and investing in that long term, and they go heavy on it. And he talks about this lady who built a furniture company and was a Jewish immigrant into America. And she builds a furniture company and she does, I think Warren Buffett, she was doing 80 million in revenue, right? And you could watch videos of her as you're watching it, and she's going around in her wheelchair, and she was obsessed with customer experience. All the great companies in the world are obsessed with customer experience. And I think a great product and great customer experience in terms of for us, it's face-to-face interaction. Yeah. And the hard part about doing that is, can you do that 1,000 times a day?
Especially when you're knackered.
When you're knackered.
When you may be pissed off in certain situations. Yeah. That at the door, that stops.
Yeah.
You put a front on and you got to be happy, right?
You've got to, right? Team don't turn up.
Yes.
Something goes down.
Coaches are late. What
was not running might go, you know, you're dealing, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you've got to prepare yourself for all these situations and make a team that can handle anything. That's the test. And it's the way I look at it is like, right now I'm going through a transition, so I'm getting ready to open Victoria, and we're 4 weeks out, right?
Yeah, and you've closed Mayfair now.
Closed Mayfair, transitioned into a bigger location. So it's 2,500 square foot bigger than what Mayfair was.
And that was for profit margins, for
I wanted to improve the business model.
You wanted to improve the
Yeah. So I was an half PT business model and half classes. Class was small. And I looked at it and thought, it's good. It's a good business and there's scale there, but it needs to be tweaked to be able to scale this business and to be able to focus. I want to focus it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, if you're going to a PT customer and a class customer, they're two different customers. Whereas what I started to get a real thrill out of was the class customer. Watching that customer come in, meet a group of people, train together, and just create friendships and friendships that they would never have created anywhere else.
100%.
And I thought, right, okay, I need to double down on that, and I want to double down on that. But how do I create something that is hands and shoulders above better than any boutique experience out there? Okay, so you think, okay, I can add more in, but not always doing more is better, because you can do more, but your product can dilute.
You can overwhelm.
You can
the customer
overwhelm.
Experience.
So what I done is sort of the most impactful experience I had when it come to performance in boxing was I went on GB trials. I boxed for England numerous times, but boxing for England and going on GB is two different things, right? I didn't qualify for them, but I had the chance to go up there 4 or 5 times, right? And what they had was you had boxing coaches specialised in that. You had strength conditioning specialists, nutritionists, psychologists. You had everything there that could improve the performance of them Olympic athletes and increase the chances of them winning an Olympic medal. And what I thought was, right, okay, for me, I'm not fighting anymore. But what I love about creating a club was that I was around people like yourself, younger people in their early mid-30s, even 50s and 60s, that was trying to push their limits of where they was in their career and in their life, right? For me, your health, your fitness starts with that.
Yeah.
How do I create a boutique fitness club that brings that level of quality and performance and make it really accessible? Because the only people that can experience that right now is someone that can go and spend 20, 30, 40 grand a year, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the idea going into the new club. The first club was all about being authentic and the boxing and being filling that place in the market.
Getting your brand out there as well.
And getting the brand out there as well. And we built great brand equity and built a great product. But now this is an evolved version of that. I've brought a strength conditioning class in, I've brought a recovery suite in, and then I'm bringing a nutritionist on board. And it's about creating that world that someone who's got £200 to £300 a month can come and experience that. Let's see.
Yeah. Here to get it done, health is the key to success.
Yeah.
And you truly believe that. We talk about the 5 pillars here. We talk about your physical health is number 1. And that helps with your mental, your emotional, your social, and even your financial health.
Yeah.
And that's something you're implementing at Jab, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Like, for me, I think, and I was talking about this with someone today, what can we do better than a third space? Because third space can go and spend, probably they're spending 4 or 5 million on their fit out, maybe something along them lines. They've got numerous clubs. What can we do better? Well, for one, because they are a training space, they can't create as good as class product. They just can't do it, right? 2, they can't create a community because it's corporate, right? So I think what we can do better than a third space is, for one, our product can be better. That's why I only have 2 to 3 products and I make them exceptional. So I like go into them deep and make sure they are class. 2, our community is bang on. And the way I think you can make a community strong is you need to make everyone feel welcome.
Well, this is the thing. I watch you sometimes. You know everyone's name. How key is that?
Yeah, it's so key, right? But you see these people day in, day out. And I think a great class instructor will end up creating a following that just comes to their class, or might do a few, but they're there, like they're there religiously. And that's the job of a great coach. Or a great class instructor? Can you be so good that a group of people really want to come and train with you consistently?
Because in today's world, people are missing purpose. They are struggling. Maybe they don't enjoy their job. So come to like Jab is their time to switch off, to socialise, and actually feel part of something. That's why community is so big.
100%. I think the boutique fitness club is like the modern day pub.
Yes.
It's like the modern day nightclub, right?
Yeah.
It's like where people come, they relieve stress, they meet people, you know, they sort of get away from other stuff that's going on in their life. I've seen it change people's lives, you know.
Yeah,
I've watched it happen.
Physically and mentally.
Physically and mentally.
Improving all those 5 aspects.
100%. But if Dan Lawrence is a good one as well, right?
Yeah.
If I'm out of shape, don't look after myself, go out boozing, and I'll come and live with you and Dan Lawrence, it will better my life.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? So how do you create a group of people that are like that?
Yeah.
That's the goal for me. You know, like I went training this morning, and I have Hannah that works with me, that runs the business, and I have Max, who's a client, who's got a great startup called Andine, right? Both are on that thing where they like to train hard, they're trying to push their limits. That I want to be around them people, because it pushes you a little bit harder, you know?
Because you're so busy, and a lot of people relate to having their own business. Do you still find the times that are non-negotiable for you to look after your physical health? Like, what you doing? You train early in the morning. Like, you're a dad of 2 now. You know what I mean? So even less sleep, but you still prioritizing your physical health. What are you doing to prioritize your physical health?
I think, like, I've been through waves of running the business where I've sort of let it slide, and I've not put myself first, my physical health first, and your culture's affected and your decision making's affected. Your culture and your decision making is probably the 2 biggest things that will affect you long term. You make a decision today and it'll affect you in 5 years.
Yep.
You ruin your culture today and it'll take you a year or 2 to get back, right? So you need to be bang on with them. Now, the way I looked was, I used to look at output. So can I wake up in the morning, like 5, 6 in the morning, and sort of take in as much information and put out as much output as I can, and then go to sleep and wake up and do it again. That was great. But what happened was my decision making could have been better, could have been much better, and that also affected my culture. So what I do now is I wake up early, I'll meditate. So I do, Robin Sharma says MVP, which is meditation, visualization and prayer, right? And what that does is, not every day I'm doing this, but I would do it a good 4 or 5 times a week, right? And I'll wake up, I'll have a bit of time to myself, I'll do that. That's 5 in the morning. If I've got a client in the morning and I ain't got time to train, I'll probably train midday. I make sure I put myself first. And that feeling that I know it, and it's exactly the same as an athlete, when you know that you're peaking, when you know that you're there, you know when you've gone over the hill, when you feel lethargic, that means you've got to pull it back. You know when you're peaking, right? I try and make sure that I'm feeling like that all the time. If I feel like I'm tired and I'm overwhelmed, I pull back the training and I focus more on recovery. If I feel like I'm flying, I'll stick to that, right? But I'll make sure that I always feel like that. You're better off taking 1 less meeting a day. You're better off putting out less output. Your output needs to be quality. Yeah. And I think the difference between a great company and an average company is execution, right? The great companies in the world execute well. And the way you execute well is making sure that you're on top form and you're covering all bases and you've got a great team. And that great team is on that mission, you know?
But that starts you as a leader as being in great physical shape.
You need to be, right?
100%.
I don't know how someone does it, and I don't know how someone leads at that level and is not.
No, and look, if they are doing well, they would do even better if they were in great physical shape.
Well, listen, the best entrepreneurs of our time are all looking after themselves. Yeah,
they're not staying away from booze.
Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos,
this is it.
You know, they're all the great entrepreneurs of our time. They're all into it, right?
And talk to me about your mental health, mate. Obviously, outgrowing your business, obviously, there's going to be times where you're going to struggle with your mental health. You're going to be exhausted from sleep deprivation. Sometimes you may not look after your nutrition because you're so busy. So talk to me about your mental health, mate, how you make sure that is at a good level.
The MVP, what I got from Robin Sharma, that is fucking incredible.
Yeah. Talk to me.
And I think if you ain't into meditation and you think it's woo-woo, you just read a book. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
There's different forms of meditation. For me, I walk in for an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? That's my way just to switch off from Instagram, from emails, from calls, and that's where I manifest. I think of my ideas. And for me, that's meditation. For me, I switch off. Yeah. There's different forms of meditation. What's your form of meditation?
100%. Yeah, I'll literally meditate and pray like I'm praying to a fucking god.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, I'm like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think like I've never had the last time I had this much passion was when I was fighting and I was winning a lot. So I'm like that headspace when I was a kid of 16, 17, I was on fire. So I'm trying to maintain that headspace, get myself in that headspace and maintain that headspace. Maintaining it is the hardest part. It's the same with health, right? You don't get to it and you're there. It's constant. It's a daily routine. It's daily rituals that help you stay in that space. I'll do that. I journal once a week, which I think helps with emotional intelligence in terms of you can look back at it, you can write stuff down, and it helps you look at your week from a third person and look at what you're going through and analyze it. Them two things and reading, I think is sort of, you need that, and I think that if you put them into your weekly routine, you'll feel $1 million. I also think don't be a victim. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, everyone has different upbringings and emotional traumas that they've been through. We know that, right? Yeah. But if you do, then get a shrink. Yeah. Don't complain about it. Yeah. There's always a way out, right? Of
course. There's always an excuse.
There's always an excuse, right? And I just think I'm not into being a victim.
But do you think that comes from doing sport from a young age? You couldn't be a victim. Do you know what I mean?
I think so,
You have to learn from failure straight away.
I think so. I think like my first
upbringing from football, from boxing, I think it does bring resilience into your lifestyle, which probably helps with your business.
100%, right? And it's simple in sport is because if you ain't putting it in, natural ability will take you so far. Yeah. And if you ain't putting it in, you won't see the results. My first sort of interaction with that was I didn't spar well one night. I was about 12-year-old, and I walked out of the gym, and I said to my dad, "Oh, the trainer shouldn't have told me to do that." And he said, ain't his fault, it's your fault. You didn't do it. Yeah. And that was my first thing of like, oh shit, it was my fault. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And will you get your kids into boxing, or will you be pushing them to what they want to do, for example?
My oldest is 4, right? So I've got a 4-year-old and 18-month-old. From what I've read, you want to get them doing as much different types of sport before they're 7, because that's where they build their coordination. So he's doing everything at the minute.
And is he sporty? Because I know, obviously, Maddie's sporty.
He's enjoying it. Yeah, I mean, he's enjoying it. My youngest one is like, he was kicking a ball with his left foot 14 months.
I love that.
Yeah, so I was like, shit.
Project Gareth Bell.
Yeah, he's quite coordinated. He's like quite coordinated. I was like, shit, okay, so you can see the differences. For me, whether they want to go boxing or not, I don't know. Okay. The first thing he's done is gymnastics. Nice. I feel like gymnastics builds, anyone you meet who's done gymnastics as a kid, they seem to be strong as fuck.
Strong, mate.
You know?
But when we were younger, gymnastics, what are you doing that for?
Yeah, what's that? It was football, wasn't it?
It's football.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about your emotional health, because obviously being a business owner, mate, you got to control your emotion, because there's going to be times where you're frustrated with coaches, then maybe not up to standard, up to level. Then there might be times where you get annoyed with your missus because you just ain't got the energy. Do you know what I mean? So tell me, how do you deal with your emotional health? Because I think that is a little bit different to mental health.
I've made plenty of mistakes with this, by the way. I was extremely volatile. I was quite emotional. Like obviously when you're going through a lot for the first time, everything is heightened and you become emotional with that. The great leaders that I've met are very on level. Yeah. You don't know whether they're angry, you don't know whether they're sad, you don't know whether they're on top of the world. They're just good. It's important, man. I think that when you go through them hard times, if you allow it to take you on waves, you will be fucked and you'll be a bad leader. And I think that as a leader, you're like a parent, you're like a dad, right? If you was to explain, like, what do you think, if you was to explain a perfect dad in your head, it would be someone that sort of knew what they wanted in life and someone who was solid.
Cool. Well, he's in his masculine, but he's also with his feminine side as well. That's a true sign of masculinity, right?
Well, it's empathy, right? Yeah. And I think where your masculine comes in, where you know where you're going, your vision,
you're the leader,
and you believe in it. Your feminine comes in where someone's not hitting the results they need to hit, or they're going through tough times, and you need to be able to put your arm around them and be empathetic with them. I found that side incredibly hard. I don't have much empathy in terms of if someone's, it just doesn't, it's not my thing. what I would do is that I have been now over the last 6 months or so. I've just been solid, where I feel like it's probably the best headspace I've been in, being a business owner. Probably since I was a kid, to be honest. And the reason why is because I was trying to reach the goal so bad that I was forcing it and not following my gut instinct. And I think that what I would do now is I will make sure that I've got people managers that are empathetic.
Yeah.
And because
so important, mate.
they're the ones, they need to be like your mum, you know. They need to be like the mum of everyone, and everyone really trusts them, and they can read people. They know how to put their arm around people. The simple thing is find people that are good at what you're not good at, right?
Yeah.
If you know you're not naturally empathetic, one, don't be an arsehole, but two, get someone that really is empathetic and is good at that, you know?
100%. And social, this is something I struggle with, mate. We're so busy. So the social health side of things. Talk to me, you're growing your own business. How hard is it to tune into your social life to allow you to switch from business, which we know if you switch off, you slow down, that actually enhances your business.
Yeah.
Because you're 100 miles an hour all the time, you can potentially hit that brick wall and your business could potentially collapse. How difficult is it for you to tune into your social health? As a business operator, it's tough.
I don't have one.
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
No, I everything revolves around business.
Yeah.
So what we have been doing recently is we will maybe once a week or every so often we'll have a couple of margaritas. And,
who's this? You and your team? You and your missus?
Me and the team.
Okay.
Me and the team, or me and the missus as well. That's great. I think it's good to celebrate the small wins.
Yes.
If you don't never celebrate and you don't step back and smell the roses, you can feel like, and your team can feel like, you're on a constant treadmill to a never-ending goal.
Yeah.
Whereas them small wins that you have throughout the week or whenever that is, when you reach them, you have to celebrate them.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's really important.
It's boost your team.
Exactly.
It's only going to boost yourself.
Yeah. So I'll do that, and then, you know, I have days where obviously, you know, like tonight, I'm taking my son skateboarding.
Nice.
You know, and I have them moments where I'm just with a family. For me to step away from, I'm always on, if I'm honest, but I might have times where I'll try and leave the phone to one side.
Yeah.
You know, much easier said than done, but I think that your team and everyone around you will get on a natural working flow where a Sunday they'll switch off, and they need to be doing that as well, right? So I think that's important.
Because there's that famous saying, don't live to work, work to live.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Where are you and where's that balance for you?
I love work.
Yeah, this is the thing. I love work.
Yeah.
So for me, I love it.
Yeah. I'm not.
You found something that you're passionate about. Something that you enjoy.
Yeah, and I've never been I'm not like a big group of friends person that goes out, and it's just not me.
Okay.
So I don't, for me, I look forward to starting work on a Monday, and I enjoy that. For me, as growing up, my dream was to be a businessman. It was like, I used to look at people and think, that must be so good, you know, from young. So I'm living that. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I've got control of my destiny. And if I reach it or I don't reach it, it's in my control.
I think it's either in you or not. If you want to be a business owner, you got to be able to prepared for making sacrifices or not having that social life, but tuning into, this is what I enjoy and this is part of the social. Like you said, you're always constantly with your team. When you have your little wins, that's your time off. Or when you take your kids skateboarding, that's your little moment. Rather than needing to go to Ibiza for a whole week.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And let off some steam.
Yeah, exactly. That ain't, you know, it's just not me.
Yeah.
You know, if I was having a break, I would go away with just me and the old woman. Yeah. And go and switch off. You know what I mean?
Is she that old? Is she?
No.
Love that. And mate, talk to me. So the 5 pillars we mentioned again. Then how do you implement them into your business?
The 5 pillars.
Yeah. So the physical, mental, emotional, social, and obviously financial. We can come on to financial in a sec.
Starts with you, right?
Yeah.
I think when people say they ain't got time for it, it just blows my mind because I think, well, if you're in control of your business or, you know, unless you've got to meet hard deadlines, everyone's got time. It's not like you're working for every second of the day. So I just make sure that I have the moments in the day where I have them in it. So 5 a.m, I'll do the mindset stuff. I'll usually go to the gym straight after that. If not, I'll be doing it in the middle of the day or the end of the day, rarely the end of the day. Yeah. and I'll just make sure I have them pillars in, and then I know that whatever mindset I'm in, so if I'm feeling highly stressed, then I know that I've got to step back and I've got to do it fast in case I make a bad decision. So that's what I do. You got to have the emotional intelligence to be able to read that, right? I don't think it's always about pushing through. I think it's about knowing how you're feeling, making sure that you've got them programs within your life, and knowing when you've got to step back, knowing when you can push on, My team will know, like if even I'll know if my team's feeling it, I'll say you've got to have a day off. Just have a day off.
Yeah, of course.
You're better off having a day off than making a bad decision.
100%. And mate, let's quickly talk about financial health, because I think that's a big. If you aren't healthy when it comes to financial, then every other aspect can be affected.
Yeah.
I say today in today's world, if you're not financially secure, then you're going to struggle with your mental health massively. How have you been with your financial health in the last, let's say, 5 years?
Up and down. I'm not a finance guy, right? So like,
are you money driven? Like, do you want to?
Of course. Yeah, of course. But what I mean by a finance guy is, finance guys are really good at being unemotional with money. So they're really good at setting out, say, a cash flow forecast, understanding numbers, and then also being unemotional towards it, where you've just got to follow that. If you're not great with finances, then you emotionally buy, right? Yeah. Which I understand that. So how have I handled I'm, for one, don't stress about it. You know what I mean? Money's not important enough to stress about it. I've mixed with people that are billionaires that home life is not great. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Too. So it's like, at the end of the day, I know that I could go and live in the middle of nowhere and be happy. It doesn't matter. I grew up with fuck all. It don't bother me. Do you know what I mean? The other thing is that if you have a goal, and obviously business is about improving revenue, improving valuation, and creating a really solid cash flow stream. That's what business is, right? Of course. Have that goal and stick to it. Do you know what I mean? Know what you know what you need to live on, and try not to abuse it. Do you know what I mean? Live under your means, basically. Yeah, like for me, obviously, I'm going through a stage where I'm in a growth stage in my business. So for me, I'll try and live on, for my family, just the minimum of what we can live on, and then the rest I just want to keep for the business. If I could cut out my own wage and hire someone with it, I would. Yeah. Because I've watched how important hiring is for your business. Important. I've done it recently with Get It Done. It's so important, mate. It will change the game, and that's what great operators and great leaders know, right? Like I've got sort of Hannah and Connor that run my business in head office and operate it, etc. They do the legwork in terms of, like, I couldn't do what they're doing. And what are they doing? Are they strategizing? Are they coming up with marketing? Yeah, tools? So you're there to be the visionary, and you're there to know where it's going and know your skill sets. Yeah. So what I'm good at is I can get doors open, and I'm good at building relationships with people, and I really know where I'm going, and I can instinctively feel. I think anyway, I can instinctively feel where the attention is at. So I try and tune into that. Your operator will make sure that things are getting done in terms of it's happening, it's not being left. You're not coming up with these ideas and it's being left, and you're not taking too much risk, right? And then your other person is making sure you say your marketer or whatever. In a startup, obviously you're wearing loads of different hats. But the way I look at it is, operator needs to make sure it's getting done, right? And to be honest, they both play that role, and make sure you're not taking a lot of risk. The other one needs to make sure you're everywhere. You're creating attention around the brand. Everyone's hearing about you. Everyone's knowing about you. And you're getting people through the door. You're getting deals done with corporate, all of that side, the marketing, the sales side. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They work together on the operations. And then this is down to your energy for attention. Yeah, and product. I just say, put me in front of the people and I'll sell it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way I look at it, because passion comes from the founder, right? And, your job as a founder is to get people to believe in your vision, love it, and sing the same as what you do, right? If you can create that, you'll create a successful business. You can never do that, you'll never create a successful
100%,
business.
mate. And what's the goal, mate? Do you want to sell the business one day, or do you constantly just want to grow and grow? Do you see yourself in other places than London, or do you just want to expand in London?
So my goal is to create the largest fitness brand in the world.
Nice.
I want people to, when they think of boxing, when they think of that, they think of jab. I just want it to be relatable.
So as big as Barry's boot camp on that level?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's what I'm going for. I don't think about selling. I do think about creating value, because, you know, when you raise money off of a valuation, right? So I think, how do I create an exceptional customer experience? How do I bring elite performance and make it accessible to the market so anyone can touch and feel it and be a part of it? How do I grow that? How do I scale that? And how do I empower as many people as we can? So everyone we touch, we have an impact on. That's the goal for me. My goal is to get to America.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, yeah, I'm quite open about that.
You've been to America a few times, haven't you? You love it.
Yeah.
Where can you see yourself opening? LA, New York?
I'd love to open in New York.
Yeah.
I think that they're like the biggest market to conquer.
I guess it's the most similar to London, isn't it?
It's the hardest market to conquer.
Yeah.
New York. If you can crack that market, then you'll do all right.
Because New York, what they got? I know they've got Dog Pound, which has recently become quite a thing. Then you got obviously Barry's Boot come out there. They must have Soul Cycle.
You got Soul Cycle.
Have you got anything boxing related over there?
Yeah, you got Rumble.
Rumble.
Yeah, you got Rumble. You got Army. You got The Class. It's great. Like I think New York's great. I think our product's better. I think that they're great at marketing.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal at marketing. They're great at brand positioning. Like the Americans are exceptional at it.
And Americans are just more enthusiastic than the Brits as well.
I think they put a lot of focus on marketing.
Yeah.
Like they just get it, you know.
Yeah.
The biggest class concepts in the world are all in New York. They've all started in New York, they've all sold in America. I really want to crack that market. I think that we would do incredibly well there, but I understand that it's a big challenge. So you've got to be very strategic in the way that you go in and enter that market.
Like when you open up your gym, it's not just about opening up your gym. You've got to find the right area. You've got to have the right traffic. Do you know what I mean? It's so difficult. And then those areas tend to be far more expensive to lease. So you've got all these things to think about. Yeah.
The way I look at the business is go big, you know.
And how do you find the best investors for it? What was your biggest, what would you look back on the last 5 years? What would you say is your biggest, not regret, but biggest lesson? What would you do differently when it comes to investment side of things, if there was to be one?
Because someone's willing to invest money, don't mean it's the right money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When you're raising, you need to. For every decision you make, you need to feel it in your gut instinct, right? And if you tune into it, it's why I meditate and do that stuff. If your mind is clear, you'll know internally how you feel towards something. You need to make sure that the people that are coming on board, you're marrying these people. You know, you're taking their money, and your goal is to get them a return. You know, so you know they come in, they back your vision, and they're backing you to do it, right? So you're more or less marrying these people. You need to make sure that you are, for one, you like them and you feel that with them. You know, you align.
You align, and it's massively important because you'll be talking to them on a regular basis. You want to be able to have good conversation with that person and have a good relationship.
I think so, and like, you know, a great investor will be with you. They'll be with you through the good times and the bad times, and that, you know, business is not all up. It's just not how it works. It goes through ups and downs, and you need to strategize from them down times, and you need to you understand that you've got a strategy that will take you out of it, right? Like I listened to Michael Murray the other day, and they're talking about luxury fashion. Luxury fashion is not going through a great time right now, but they believe it's coming back. Of course it will, you know. So you need to find investors that support you on that journey.
And how do you find these investors?
For me, I've been very lucky where I've had a great client base, and I've had great clients that have backed the journey and believe in it.
Well, it goes back to leaving your home, going into central London and getting those contacts.
100%. 100%. And I think for one, you can't have an ego towards pitching, you know. Asking people for money is hard. Yeah. Pitching to someone to say that this is my idea and I believe that I can create a better company than what Barry's has, that's been about for 25 years, is ballsy.
And they're going to go, well, prove it. Have you got a good business plan in front of you? And if you don't have that business plan, they're going to like go back to the drawing board and come back and make sure you have a proper business plan in front of me, right?
Well, yeah, I think the main thing with business plans are when people look at business is simple. Know your business model and know your economics.
Yeah.
Know what's going to drive your business. Know what's going to affect your business. I think that, most founders normally have trouble, what I've heard anyway, I haven't experienced it, but is normally when they get to private equity level and they're raising from institutions, that's when the harder work comes in, because you've got people that want to see a return. They've also got investors and they need to get them a return on their money. So they will pressure you to make money. And that's, in my eyes, it's not always the best way to grow a brand, right? And your best brand, because
growing a brand takes time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you rush it, if you push it, if you force it in people's faces, sometimes it can be too overwhelming for the consumer, right? So it's build up that community, and it takes time, building that trust.
Well, Starbucks is a perfect example, right? You read the Starbucks book, and he talks about that, and they done a great job of creating a company of value and rolling it out around the world.
Yeah.
And obviously, everyone deals with this at some point, but you're going to get to a level where you spread like butter.
Yeah.
And you've got so many sites or so many locations, and you uphold the quality.
Yeah.
Starbucks struggled with that. And if you listen to Howard Schwartz talk about it, he talks about going back and focusing on one customer at a time, one cup of coffee at a time, and getting them basics right. For our business, the group fitness business, your main economics are your rent and your wages and your capacity.
And do
you know what I mean?
Yeah, cool.
If your rent's high and you have to operate at 80% capacity or 90% capacity to you to wipe its mouth, you're going to be under pressure. If your class, if you ain't giving people a platform and your class isn't big enough, then your wages are going to be higher because your margin's smaller, because everyone expects a certain wage.
And all these little profit margins that people don't necessarily think about.
That will make or break your business, right? And you need to get them basic economics right, and you need to know your model. And what I mean by that is, what's your product? Where do you sit in the market? How you find customers? If you can answer them 3 questions, then you'll do all right.
Yeah,
the
100%.
scaling part is they reckon getting to 1 to 2 sites is the hardest. You get to 1 to 2 and you're all right.
Yeah.
Scaling past that is easier because you can replicate. Obviously, you're always have issues.
And would you franchise like an F45? Do they do that model, or would you just focus on you?
No, I don't plan on doing that. I want quality.
You want quality?
It's
known that F45, some F45 shut down because the quality is just not there.
Yeah, listen, F45. So F45 has the same scalability model as Starbucks.
Yeah.
So every franchise model, right?
Yeah.
Listen, most people have sold F45 and their model didn't work through a recession and through COVID. Obviously, it's a physical site, but and you have franchisees that don't have the capital to be able to hold it up.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, before COVID, they got valued at 1.4 billion from a circuit.
Wow.
From a fucking circuit.
What's it now? Okay.
It has dropped, you know, obviously because of COVID and because of their business issues, but that's fucking impressive, man. That's
impressive.
Do you know what I mean? That's a 45 seconds on, 15 seconds on circuit. And
if you got offered that type of money, are you taking it or you continue the business?
I don't know, man.
You don't know.
I don't know. I think someone if you look at Ben Francis at Gymshark, what he's doing is incredibly ballsy.
Yeah.
And he could take a load of cash off the table right now, step away from that business, be a billionaire, never have to work again. The fact that he turns up every day and rolls the dice to build that business is really ballsy, and you've got to respect it. Yeah. And that's the same with great founders. Phil Knight was obviously one of them as well. When you read that book, they was IPOing and they were still close to going bust. I think most people look at business and they think they're cracking it.
They're cracking it when it comes to growth, but you've got to look at their profit margins.
Exactly. And they're taking risk.
Don't think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important. So I don't plan on selling out. I enjoy work.
Well, you're young, mate. How old are you now?
31.
Exactly. So you still got easy 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I enjoy it. I don't know. I don't even think about it.
Good. Okay, last bit, mate. Any advice? Last bit of advice to a youngster, your 20-year-old self.
Get around the right people, be patient, and learn as much as you can. Yeah. absorb as much knowledge as you can, and focus on taking one step forward at a time, and just doing it perfect.
Yeah.
You know, don't rush. There's no rush. You know, that's what I'd say to myself. I went out the blocks fast, and I had somewhere where I wanted to get to, but I didn't always make the best decisions. And I don't suppose I probably will have decisions that I make going forward that may not be the best, right? But if I think in my gut instinct that they're the right decision to make at the time, then that's all you can do, you know?
Good. Leave it there, mate. Mate, been class having you on. I'll be down at the new Victoria space for sure,
100%.
mate. And those listening to, if you're ever in London or you live in London, make sure you get down to Jab. Top session. You'll enjoy it and be part of that community.
Thanks, Brad.
Mate, top man.
Good man.